I'm Alex Niznek, quarterback for the Ithaca Yellow Jackets.
Thomas Favis, quarterback for the Ashley Bears.
We're the Fulton cheerleaders.
Regular season football may be over in Gratiot County, but it's postseason time for 4 teams. That's why you're here for the Gridiron Gurus Plus Week 6 Playoff Edition. I'm Dave Boucher, staff reporter. This is Curtis Wildphone, another staff writer, and our publisher, Tom McDonald. Last week, Curtis beat us with a 4-1 record. Tom and I went 3-2. We're going to be doing something a little bit differently here today. I know you guys can see this back here. Instead of going with the normal helmet setup that we have with Tom, our helmet was apparently a little bit too small this week. So we're going to be going up with something a little bit different. We have helmet decals for all the schools that are playing. Tom's going to be putting up who he thinks will move on to the district finals, and we're going to be tracking their progress throughout the playoff season. So let's get underway with the 6-3 Alma team facing a Comstock Park team that's 7-2.
Yeah, Alma's heading to West Michigan this week to take on Comstock Park. Like I said, 6-3 Alma, 7-2 Comstock Park. Two pretty similar teams here with the spread offenses.
That's right. You know, Alma comes in, they're scoring 25 points a game. Not too bad, but they're giving up 26 points a game. I don't know how you get to a 6-3 record when you're giving up more points than you score. And I think that's going to be a pretty key factor when you take a look at this game.
I agree. You know, Alma's been giving up a lot of points. Looking at both their schedules, I honestly think Alma's in a tougher league. And we're going with the Panthers.
Wow.
One last time.
Yeah, Comstock Park's 7-2 record. It doesn't look the greatest, but they're a really good team. Those 2 losses come to Zeeland West, who's ranked number 6 in Division 4, and West Catholic, who's number 1 in Division 5. They were in both those games, so really tough. And like you said, Alma giving up a lot of points. There's similar offenses here in the spread. Comstock Park tends to pass out of it a little bit more. Alma tends to run out of it with Tyler Bradshaw. He's got 1,400 yards and 18 touchdowns this season. But like you said, they just give up too many points. Comstock Park only gives up 14 points a game. I think that's a difference. Comstock Park's defense is just a little bit better.
I agree. You know, I spoke with Coach Ingersoll from Alma last week. He said, you know, they're a spread team. They're kind of like us. He likes the matchup that they have, and they're really excited to be back in the playoffs. You know, they're ready to go out and get a win. But, you know, so is this Comstock Park Panther team. This is the first time they've been in the playoffs in the last 5 years. They're really hungry for this victory, and I just see them playing better opponents and coming in a little bit better prepared for this game. I have Comstock Park taking it 32-14.
Yeah, I have it at 35-21. I think they're going to be able to put up points on both sides. Bradshaw will probably break a couple long touchdown runs, but I think Comstock Park's passing game is going to be too much. 35-21.
All right, now we're going to move on here to the 8-1 Ashley Bears traveling to play the 9-0 New Lothrop Hornets. So.
Yeah, Ashley, I'm sorry, you guys got a tough draw this year in the playoffs. I was looking at it today, just based on playoff points. Ashley, out of all the teams in Division 8 that have to travel in Week 1, they've got the most playoff points. They've actually got more playoff points than 6 of the 18 teams hosting. And that includes MLS, who's got 48 points. And they're hosting at a 6-3 record. Ashley's sitting there 8-1. They got to play a 9-0 Fowler team that is actually ranked in Division 7, who's dropping down to Division 8. They've set school records, New Lothrop has, in points scored and points given up. They've only given up 32, scored 450. School records. It's going to be tough. I'm sorry, Ashley, you guys really got the raw end of the deal in the playoff picks.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, Ashley's had a great season, and you talk about a team that did not fare well in the draw. It was Ashley. I mean, 450 points to 32, and you're talking Ithaca scores, you know. Ashley, I'm sorry. I think this is the end of the road for them. I got New Lothrop by 3 touchdowns.
You know, I see where these guys are coming from. The New Lothrop has been putting up some seriously impressive scores, seriously impressive margins all season. But it's not like this Ashley Bears team hasn't been playing very, very well. They are 8-1. They have 7 wins in a row. You know, their workhorse running back, Justin Wilson, has 1,371 yards and 13 touchdowns in 8 games. This kid can play, and they're averaging over 300 yards per game on the ground. I talked to Coach Holloway last week, and he said, you know, it's a tough draw for us, but both teams earn the right to be here in the playoffs. Coach sees this as a chance for them to prove themselves. I think they go out and do. New Lothrop plays in a league where everybody plays each other. So it's kind of hard to see how good they really are. there's always going to be a team that's going to be better than everybody else, 2 or 3 teams that are going to make the playoffs too, and then a bunch of teams at the bottom. So, I think that could be the case here.
Yeah, the next 2 best teams in New Lothrop's league, though, they're both qualified for the playoffs, 7-2, 6-3. In Division 7, they're in the playoffs. New Lothrop beat them by a combined score of 90-6. I mean, that's dominance within your league, right? You have a hard time gauging it because there's not too much outside competition there, but that's just pure dominance within your league. Ashley, I looked at it today, their 8 wins, all of them come against losing record teams with losing records. So you're right, they haven't really played anybody, they really haven't met the likes of New Lothrop, and I think it's going to be a tough day, tough draw, 48-14 New Lothrop.
They did play game 1. Mount Pleasant Sacred Heart. They're in the playoffs. They're always a tough team. They hung with them for a while. So they did play somebody tough. But I agree with you. The rest of that league is weak. I got New Lothrop gets up by 3 touchdowns.
I mean, those kids can't change who they play. I know it's the same way for New Lothrop. They're going to go out and play hard regardless of that team that they line up against. Now, I've looked. This is the 11th season in a row New Lothrop advanced to the playoffs. Tough team. They've been 500 in first-round playoff games. It can go either way. And they're entering the playoffs every year with 1 loss, 2 loss, 3 loss. That's very impressive teams, and they're coming out 500. I have Ashley taking it 24-22.
Yeah, Ashley really fought for an 8-1 record, and they get rewarded with probably the toughest district in the entire Division 8. So
definitely.
Tough draw.
All right, now we're going to move on to a couple of teams that met earlier in the season here. We have the 5-4 Fulton Pirates traveling to play the 9-0 Fowler Eagles.
Yeah, and I think Fowler's going to be surprised because they are not playing the same Fulton team they played earlier in the year. The 4 games that Fulton played prior to Fowler, they were scoring about 21 points a game, giving up 18. They went 2-2. Those 4 teams combined for an 11-25 record. So they were struggling against some pretty bad teams. The 4 games post-Fowler, they're scoring almost 32 points a game, giving up 15. They went 3-1, maybe should have been 4-0 against PW. And those 4 teams combined for a record of 20-16. So they're playing a lot better competition. They're beating teams by a lot more. They're a different team right now, Fulton is.
Right, and you talk about the teams that Fulton's playing. Fowler had the exact opposite. Although they did go 9-0, the last 4 teams they played, Carson City Crystal, Dansville, Portland St. Pat's, and Bath, had a combined record of 9-27. So they're kind of coasting into this game here. I think that Fowler could be overlooking this Fulton team. Fulton looks like an entirely different squad than they did from the beginning of the season.
See, I disagree a little bit. I think that you throw the records out when these 2 teams play. And I think that it always goes down to home field advantage, and you won't be able to find a parking place in the town of Fowler Friday night. I mean, it's just going to be packed. And I agree, Fulton has played tougher ball the last few weeks. They've gotten better, but sorry, Pirates. I think it's the Eagles this week.
Yeah, Fulton, that game earlier, they lost 34-12. Fowler pretty much dominated that whole game. After hearing, I'm here making quite a case for Fulton here, but I took Fowler. And then like you said, it comes down to a couple things. Home field, and in that previous game, Fowler had 268 yards rushing against Fulton. I think that's going to be the key. After making the case for Fulton, I'm going to pick Fowler, but it's going to be a close one, 21-20.
Bringing up that last game, Fulton was down 20-0 in the contest. But they started out with a ton of penalties and shooting themselves in the foot on offense and on defense. After that, though, they got the game close at 20-12. And that was late into the 3rd quarter, and then they sort of fumbled things as the game went on. So, and like we said, this is a different Fulton team. I know last week alone, Jared Barton, the star running back, 175 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground in the first half. Those are just silly numbers. Now, I know he's going to play a much stronger Fowler defense than the Bath squad that they played last week, but this team is really starting to come together on offense, especially at quarterback, too. Zach Baker taking all the snaps. I know he was splitting some snaps at the beginning of the season. He put up over 200 yards passing and 3 touchdowns through the air last week. I spoke to him after last week's game. He said, I don't want to play us in the playoffs. We're a hot team. We have nothing to lose. All the pressure is on Fowler to win this game. That's why I have the Pirates coming away with a very, very tight 28-27 victory.
Yeah, and then we roll into our final Gratiot County game of the week here, playoff game. We have the number 1 still, Ithaca Yellow Jackets hosting a Laingsburg team in that league we were just talking about. CMAC 9-0, Ithaca 6-3, Laingsburg. This could be another. It's playoffs. Anything can happen, but Ithaca looks to be the favorite pretty easily here.
You know, you look at Ithaca's schedule, they've had 489 points to 79. They've had a running clock in every game. Now, Friday against Shepherd, it was running clock. The second string D, gave up a touchdown. So, they didn't end with the running clock. You hate to say that Ithaca's going to go all the way. It's one game, one quarter at a time. And if you talk to Coach Hesbrook, he'll tell you, this is the toughest opponent they played all year long. It's the playoffs. I'd really like to go against it. No, not really. Yellow Jackets, another running clock.
And he brought up Coach Hesbrook. I went to practice earlier this week, spoke with Coach Hesbrook about how he felt his guys matched up against Laingsburg. Here's what he had to say.
Got to stop their fullback. They got a real good fullback. Their quarterback runs the veer option real well. He's a big threat, and they got a nice tailback. They got a great big old tight end. He's about 6'3" and 215 that they like to get the ball to, and some of our defensive backs aren't very big, so that's going to present a little bit of a challenge to us as well. So hopefully the defensive game plan will come together here in the next day or so, and we'll be able to go out and do what we've been able to do all season. We're going to make plays, and I tell them that every time we play a good football team, all we can do is worry about what we do. And they practice too, so I'm quite sure they're going to be able to do some of the things that they do. And to win 6 games, you got to be a pretty good football team.
I stayed around, watched practice for a little bit. It's been a little bit windy, a little bit gusty around here recently. The leaves are whipping around, branches are whipping around. It looked like Alec Niznak was passing in a dome. Had no effect on the zip on any of his passes. It's going to get nasty. It's going to be really early. We know it's playoff football. Ithaca could be the only team in the state that needs to rest its first string offense in its first playoff game. It's just the way it's going to be.
Yeah, I really don't know what else to say about Ithaca that I haven't said all year. They're a great team. They played their worst game last week against Shepherd, against a rival Shepherd, and they win 35-7. They played absolutely dreadful. Niznak had 3 picks. They just didn't play a good game, and they still won 35-7 against. Shepherd's down, but it's a rivalry game. Anything can go in a game like that, and they just dominate them. Laingsburg 6-3. They play in a league of mostly Division 7, Division 8 teams. Nothing against the CMAC. They're a phenomenal league. Maybe a little bit down this year, and Laingsburg kind of squeaked out of that. So I think the competition between the two teams is a lot different. Ithaca's playing better teams, and I think they're gonna win big, like you said. Running clock. I'm gonna say 52-7.
You look at. We talked about Ashley getting a raw end of the deal. And they got just a terrible draw, And I think that sometimes you need luck, And if the Yellow Jackets needed luck this year, they got it in their draw. They've got nothing's easy. But if you look at all the brackets, you think you got a pretty good draw.
Yeah, they got a favorable district.
Yeah, and that will help a little bit. But like I said, it's one game, one quarter at a time.
Right, and it is playoff football. It's gonna be it's a different season, different aspect. Everybody's a little bit more fired up for these games. So I've Laingsburg sticking around a little bit longer than maybe normal, and maybe the Yellow Jackets don't put up quite as many points. But I think a really telling stat that we have here: Ithaca won every game by at least 28 points. Would have been a lot higher if we didn't count last week's 35-7 win over Shepherd. Laingsburg only scores 27 points a game. That's just not going to get it done against a solid Ithaca squad. I have the Yellow Jackets taking it 48-14.
Yeah, these two teams did meet in the playoffs as well in 2006, and Ithaca won that game 28-6 in 2006. But obviously, 2 different teams, and Ithaca's going to win by a lot more than that this year.
I've heard the rumors around that it'll be 60-something to nothing, 50-something. I won't go with 60, but I will give them 45-0.
Okay. Going for the shutout here for his Yellow Jackets. Well, there you have it. The Gridiron Gurus have spoken. This was our first playoff edition, but we'll be coming back next week. We'll see with how many teams from Gratiot County, but we'll definitely be coming back to talk about some serious high school playoff action. For Curtis Wildfong and our publisher, Tom McDonald, I'm Dave Boucher. Thanks for tuning in, and make sure you pick up a copy of next week's Gratiot County Herald for all the info, stats, and features about all of the high school's playoff teams. Thanks for joining us.
They probably still will put it in the second.
That's what I said.
No, they won't.
They don't
think so?
No, I don't think they will.
Full steam ahead from here on out.
I
was watching it.